The settlement known as El Pueblo de Los Angeles was founded in 1781. From its beginning, survival and growth was defined by the search for fresh water. At the time, the only source for water was the Los Angeles River. Water was carried from the river in a series of ditches and wooden pipes that proved unsanitary. 86 years later, the still struggling city entered into a contract with the private Los Angeles City Water Company to provide fresh water to thirsty Angelenos. Where this water was going to come from was anybody's guess.
In 1877, a 23-year-old Irish immigrant named William Mulholland arrived in Los Angeles. A year later, he began working as a ditch tender. In 8 years, Mulholland worked his way up to superintendent of the Los Angeles City Water Company and began the search for a permanent source of water for the growing city. Another mover and shaker in the search for water was Fred Eaton, a future mayor of the city of Los Angeles. Together, these men traveled to Inyo County, north of the city, and explored the Owens River Valley. It was on this trip that the men devised a plan to bring an unlimited supply of fresh water to LA by building an aqueduct from the Owens Valley to the San Fernando Valley. From 1904 through 1907, the city moved to acquire land and water rights in the Owens Valley. Thirsty Angelenos were twice asked to vote bond measures to finance the huge project, which they did overwhelmingly. Finally, the Los Angeles Times trumpets, titanic project to give city a river. Unfortunately, this did not go over well with the people in the Owens Valley.
The story of how the aqueduct, described at the time as the largest water project since Roman times, was constructed is one of heroics, strife, and a surprisingly small amount of human tragedy, given the monumental scale of the task and the conditions under which it was built. Construction began in 1907, following a plan devised by the city's top water official, self-taught engineer William Mulholland. The support systems for the project were massive: 500 miles of paved road and railroad, 2 hydroelectric plants, one of the largest cement factories in the world, 240 miles of telephone wire, and more than 2,300 buildings, including warehouses, barns, hospitals, and movable tent houses for workers. At the same time preparatory work was being done, Mulholland sent crews to tackle the project's most difficult task, the boring of the 5-mile Elizabeth Tunnel through the San Gabriel Mountains near Lake Hughes. Drilling holes into the granite for dynamic charges was done with hand tools until an electric plant could be completed to provide power. Even then, the work was so laborious that commonly only 5 feet of progress was made in a 12-hour shift. The project was completed on time and within its $23 million budget.
On November 5th, 1913, 40,000 Angelenos arrived at the Cascades in present-day Sylmar for the grand opening of the Los Angeles Aqueduct. The day is a triumph for William Mulholland and a celebration of great things to come for the people of Los Angeles. Mulholland's address to the crowd is brief. This rude platform is an altar, and on it we are here consecrating this water supply and dedicating the aqueduct to you and your children's children for all time. There is a tremendous roar from the crowd. The good-natured, noisy din subsides when Mulholland stands again and gives the signal for the water to start flowing. 5 men at the top of the concrete gatehouse begin turning the great wheels. The gates lift and the water begins to flow, and once again the crowd goes wild. People rush to the now flowing water to dip cups into it for drinking. Horses rear in fright as the crowd cheers and horns blare. The band plays Yankee Doodle Dandy. Finally, Mulholland turns to the mayor of Los Angeles and says, "There it is, Mr. Mayor, take it." It is truly a great day of joy as the people of Los Angeles realize the bright future that lies ahead of them. Over the next 10 years, LA sees unprecedented growth, but trouble is on the way. By 1923, there have been several years of subnormal snowfall in the eastern Sierras, and the people of the Owens Valley are using the same water LA is. Violence erupts when 40 men dynamite the Lone Pine Aqueduct. 60 to 100 people occupy the Alabama gates, closing the aqueduct by opening the emergency spillway. By July 1927, there have been 10 instances of dynamiting. Mulholland knows Los Angeles has no place to store and hold water, so he begins building a series of reservoirs around LA, including one up little-known San Francisco Canyon. The St. Francis Dam will eventually go down in history as the second worst disaster in the state of California.
In August 1924, construction of the St. Francis Dam begins. It originally was supposed to be 185 feet high, but twice during construction, Mulholland extends its height by 10 feet without increasing the diameter of the base. Other poor decisions are made, including unwittingly building the dam against an ancient landslide on its eastern side. At the beginning of 1926, the St. Francis Dam is completed and water begins to fill the reservoir. 2 years and 6 days later, on March 7, 1928, the St. Francis Dam is filled to just 3 inches below the crest of the spillway. Mulholland orders that no more water be added.
March 12, 1928, 5 days later. At 10:30 in the morning, Tony Harnischfeger, the man in charge of the dam, discovers a leak. He immediately alerts Mulholland, who drives out with his assistant, Harvey Van Norman. The discharge is 15 to 22 gallons per second and muddy. Mulholland feels this is not serious and can be corrected at some future date. That night at 11:57 p.m., the St. Francis Dam collapses. 11:58 p.m., Tony Harnischfeger and his family are the first casualties as a wall of water 140 feet high hits their cottage 1/4 mile downstream from the dam. 5 minutes later, at 12:02 a.m., the flood wave hits and destroys Powerhouse 2, claiming the lives of 64 workmen and their families who lived nearby. The water, now 120 feet high, is traveling down the canyon at approximately 18 miles an hour.
Lyman and Lillian Curtis notice a strange mist in the air and conclude the dam has broken. Lillian and her son, Danny, head for higher ground. Lyman runs back into the house to rescue their daughters. Only Lillian and her son survive. Meanwhile, Ray Rising, another employee, is awakened by a 10-story high wall of water. He is swept into the floodwaters, but somehow manages to climb onto a floating rooftop. He is the only survivor at the power plant.
From 12:05 to 1 o'clock, San Francisco Canyon is ravaged. 6 members of the Ruiz family are killed in the flood. At the base of the canyon, near present-day Tesoro del Valle, the water destroys actor Harry Carey's Navajo trading post, which had been a popular tourist attraction.
1 a.m. The water continues following the now westward course of the river. It demolishes Edison's Saugus substation, leaving the entire Santa Clarita Valley and parts of Ventura and Oxnard without power and in the dark. Highway 99 near today's Magic Mountain is completely underwater, and the Southern Pacific Railroad bridge nearby is washed away.
1:25 a.m. 150 Edison linemen are sleeping in tents beside the railroad tracks immediately east of the Los Angeles-Ventura County line. Night watchman Ed Locke watches in horror as a flood of water approaches the camp at 12 miles an hour. Locke runs through the camp, waking as many people as possible, but 84 workers are killed, including Locke.
1:30 a.m. In Santa Paula, telephone operator Luis Gipe gets a message saying the St. Francis Dam has broken and a wall of water is sweeping down the valley. She and another operator bravely stay at their posts and call residents in low-lying areas, telling them to get to higher ground. California Highway Patrol Officer Thornton Edwards is joined by another officer, Stanley Baker, and the two crisscross the streets on their motorcycles with sirens blaring, awakening the residents to the danger. Many residents are saved as they rush to the hills. only to watch their homes get crushed below.
2:30 a.m. The phone rings at the Mulholland residence. The chief's daughter answers and wakes her father with the horrible news. As he rushes to the phone, he repeats the mantra over and over, "Please God, don't let people be killed." 5:30 a.m. The floodwaters finally empty into the Pacific Ocean near Ventura, washing victims and debris out to sea. It took 5 hours and 27 minutes to travel 54 miles from the dam site to the ocean. The flood is nearly 2 miles wide when it reaches the coast. Bodies of victims would be recovered from the ocean, some as far south as the Mexican border. Many others are never recovered.
Immediately following the dam break, as many as 8 agencies, city, county, state, and federal, begin investigating the cause of the disaster. Mulholland takes full responsibility. "Don't blame anybody else. You just fasten it on me," he says. "If there is an error in human judgment, I was the human." The final jury statement makes national headlines. The construction of a municipal dam
should never be left to the sole judgment of one man, no matter how eminent.